All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I've got just after 8 o'clock, so might as well get started for everyone that's on the line. We'll let others catch up. I'm Brian Russell, League Director. Welcome to the Dark Mountain Dash Town Hall. I'm joined by several other staff members tonight. Todd Lester, our race director, Ben Harbor, our race operations manager, Shel Frost, programs director, Diane LeBlanc, volunteer coordinator, and I haven't seen him dial in yet, but Sean Moore, our director of coach and team development, he's also our chief referee, might be joining us a little bit later. Just a small fraction of the staff that pulls these events together. So I just want to give them a public thanks here, everyone across the league staff that has gotten us to this place. And looks like we're going to be able to execute an event at Dark Mountain for the first time in a long time for those that have been around the league. This is one we typically miss for typically weather reasons. But looks like we're able to pull off Dark Mountain for this go round, and excited to see everyone this coming weekend. We know we had to skip a race because of some bad weather a couple weeks ago, so looking forward to seeing everyone again. The purpose of these town halls is really to get your questions answered, and by you, I mean coaches, parents, even student athletes, if we've got any on the line. And I'll put this out right now. I don't think we've had a question asked by a student athlete yet. If we get a question from a student athlete tonight, that student athlete gets a league t-shirt from me, from yours truly, because we are here to support the student athlete in everything we do here. So it's important that they know what to expect stepping into the weekend as well. By way of format, let me just describe how we'll do it tonight. We've done a couple of these, but for those that are joining us for the first time, we'll spend the first 30 minutes giving you information. We will tell you what to expect for the weekend, both from a schedule and event perspective. If you have questions during that time, feel free to throw those in the chat window, and the staff members that are in the chat there, they will answer those questions during those first 30 minutes the best they can. Once we get to the end of the 30 minutes, we will open it up to questions for everyone, and we will address any unanswered chat window questions, or if you raise your hand in Zoom, we'll call on you, get your question on the table, and we'll get it answered to the best of our ability. For those we can't answer tonight, we'll certainly give you a follow-up, and I'll just tell everyone in the morning I will release the single track times for Dark Mountain, includes links to the flyer and any changes that might be in there, additional information, and as best we can, the answers to any questions that we weren't anticipating tonight. We'll get that out tomorrow. So with that, let me start by just giving everyone an overview. And what I want to do is share my screen and show you really where to find the information. And everyone should be looking at our league website right here. So if you go to our website, click on the top here in this program overview tab and come down here to events and race results and click on that. And that will bring you to the page where we have all of our season events listed. And there was Cranking at the Creek. Unfortunately, Salisbury Scramble got canceled, and that would bring you to Dark Mountain Dash. And right at the top of this box here is the flyer for Dark Mountain. And that is really your best source of information for everything that's going on this weekend. And we will use that throughout the talk tonight to show you where to find some of this information. Right on page 2 here, a table of contents. It's bookmarked, so you can click on it and you can go directly to that page on the race flyer. And so that's really, it's live. Anytime we make an update to it, it goes right into the flyer and it's current on the website. Before I turn it over to our first staff member, I do want to say we've had some issues with our website. People have told me links aren't working and I can't get to the link. Just recommend everyone clear your browser cache. If you're experiencing that type of difficulty, go back to the page and try that link again, and it usually fixes the problem. I know our website is a little bit wonky, but that's typically what happens. So with that, let's turn it over to Diane LeBlanc, our volunteer coordinator, because none of these events happen without all of our awesome volunteers showing up to support us. So Diane, what can folks expect if they're volunteering, and where might we need some help for this coming weekend?
Okay, well, thanks, Brian. Good evening, everyone. It's really good to see you in our town hall meeting tonight. Yes, we absolutely do need some volunteers. We're a little low in our percentage for what we need for this weekend. So we have positions available for Saturday and Sunday. Most of our Saturday positions obviously are things that will help us just with our Saturday activities. These are positions that anyone could fill. Things like pit zone parking, those are usually two of the spots where we really need people, and a lot of times where we don't get enough. As far as Sunday goes, we also have some openings for that as well. These could be parent volunteers, they could be coaches, anyone could fill these. And then so I just want to share those really quick. Parking again, scoring, we call that hand jamming. So basically that is when people come across the line, you're just writing numbers down. That's our backup for our scoring system. Course crossing. The Dark Mountain venue is definitely different. And so we absolutely need our course crossing individuals. The shift that I need those for, and I need to mention that because it is important, from 12:15 to 1:44, that's what I have. We need 5. I think that should be, I'm sorry, 3:44, 12:15 to 3:44, sorry. We need 5 for that. And then we do need some more course marshals. So course marshals, you have to be a NICA level 1, 2, or 3 coach to do that. So if you have any questions, as always, hit me up at Diane at NorthCarolinaMTB.com and .org, sorry. And I will do the very best I can to help you. If you have questions, ask them. And we'll be looking forward to seeing you this weekend. If you can help, that would be great. Thanks, Brian. That's all I have.
Diane, thanks very much. And we already have a question in the chat window about 11-year-olds volunteering. Generally, no, love the enthusiasm, a little bit young for our needs, but talk to Diane about what you're thinking there, Rachel, and maybe we can work something out. But I bet that 11-year-old needs to stick with an adult volunteer while they're volunteering. But thanks for asking the question. So let me go back. Again, we'll go to the flyer. And each of our venues is a little bit different. And I thought it'd be a good point here to turn the floor over to Ben Harbor, again, our race operations manager, Wilkesboro local, who knows a lot about Dark Mountain. So for those folks that haven't been to Dark Mountain at all or haven't been there in a while, we do have some unique aspects, particularly about parking. So Ben, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If you want to throw up your information, why don't you take it over and walk everyone through a little bit of the logistics when they come into the site. Some of the first volunteers you're going to see is the parking manager, and tell folks what to expect.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brian. As he held up the race flyer in the parking section, there is a new little short section here called the shuttle plan. Dark Mountain has a unique situation to where we've got grass parking at the lower level and also the upper level of the dam. But that's only going to get us about 400 vehicles parked there. We have a document that you can link to and open up that'll talk about some of the aspects of a shuttle service. We have, as a league, partnered with the Wilkes Transportation Authority to provide us a shuttle during certain times of the day on Saturday and Sunday. It is not all day due to cost and traffic needs and crowd controls. So if you open that particular document, I've got to get my window out of the way. It'll open up a Word document that'll have the details, I may have closed it, of the shuttle. So read through that, and then there's a map in here. Our shuttle service is going to take people from the Dark Mountain Trail location 3 miles down the road to a local ballpark and old airport field that has parking spaces. So we're going to start at Dark Mountain. I'll show you, I'll zoom in, show you where we're going to do. For vehicles that need to come down and unload, you'll come down the big hill, you'll take a left and you'll unload all your equipment, your coolers, your camp chairs, your bikes, or whatever you need that you may need in the pit zone or spectating. And then one person will drive that vehicle back down the road 3 miles to the drop your vehicle location. The shuttle services will be circling this top upper lot to bring people back, and they walk down the hill to the event. Or when you're going to retrieve your vehicles, you'll walk up the hill, jump on a shuttle van. There's 2 of them, 2 13-passenger vans to be able to take people back and forth. The route is in the document. It gives you the Google map of where you're going. We'll come out of the park entrance that you came in. You will take a left to go down the hill. We'll go past one of our food vendors that'll be on site, Dixie Donuts. If you're hungry, I recommend a stop there. Keep on going down to the local family YMCA. And you can turn in here as a left turn, go all the way to the end. And this industrial drive is where the overflow parking's at. If we zoom in, you can see there's white striped parking spaces along both edges of the asphalt. As long as you park in those parking spaces, you will not have a problem. There are a few businesses down through the strip that if you park in front of them, they may tow you. So be aware. Once you park, do your best to walk back down to the loading unloading zone down here at the corner. The shuttle buses will pick you up and drive you back out to Dark Mountain. 3-mile round trip.
Ben, we have a pretty important question in the chat wanting to know if people can ride bikes on the shoulder of the road down to the parking lot.
At Dark Mountain?
Yes.
Inside the park, riding down the paved road here?
Yes.
So there will be vehicle traffic coming up and down from our parking, because parking is in this big field here. And on the asphalt, there'll be pit zone unloading and loading. So be very, very careful riding your bikes up and down that hill. The shuttle service does not have the ability to carry bikes. So you want to unload your bikes down in the unload load zone and just have a person coming back on the vehicle, on the shuttle van, excuse me.
The question in there was, can they ride their bikes from the YMCA along the highway shoulder all the way to Dark Mountain?
Having been on that road before, I would say no.
Mhm.
Very dangerous to do.
Yeah, I saw that pop up from somebody that wanted to know if they could ride along the highway instead of taking the shuttle. So the answer to that is no.
I would not recommend any students doing that at all. At all. There are road cyclists that travel that, but it's a very busy, very speed prone road. It's probably one I would not travel on a road bike.
We have another question, Ben. When do you anticipate the lots filling on Saturday? There's a gap in service between 1 and 4:30 when we have riders arriving for the re-ride and free ride.
So that gap in service was due to cost and time of drivers and giving them a break for their day. This shuttle service does not typically run Saturday and Sunday. So this is an exception that they're willing to do for us. As far as lots filling up, I wish I had that answer, because we've never been here. We've never had to fill up these lots that quick with the amount of students and families and spectators. So we honestly cannot answer that question. We don't know yet.
And I appreciate all the questions in the chat. If we can try and answer them via chat through the first 30 minutes here, and then we'll come back and catch any that we didn't, just so we can stay on time for everyone. Ben, what else did you want to cover for parking or logistics?
There will be parking attendants and volunteers stationed to to fill up the vehicles down at the bottom. Please be mindful if they ask you to squeeze in tighter, do your best to squeeze in the cars tight. Once we fill up the lower lot or the upper lot, then we'll have to shut off the parking lots as say full. And at that point, all vehicles will be turned around at this upper drop-off location and routed down to the overflow lot. Vehicles with teams with trailers, the trailers can come and unload, but those vehicles and trailers have to go to the overflow lot due to space. I wish we had the space at Dark Mountain, and we just don't have the space for vehicles.
Ben, anything?
Um,
else, you know?
The one thing, do you want me to do the spectator map while I'm talking and share?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Cool. All right.
It's a good feature of this one, so I appreciate you putting
Yes.
it together.
Yes. So inside the race flyer, if you go all the way down to the course venue map on page 22 of our big document, there is a spectator walking map. This venue has a very, very steep climb to start and then a very fast downhill. We do not want to see spectators walking up that downhill section. So we have created a spectator walking map. It's in that link. That link will bring up trail forks. Essentially, you're going to walk up the Lake Loop Greeny Meany trail section to get up into the top of the trail. It's about a mile, maybe a mile and a half hike to get into the trail to be able to see some fun sections of students riding certain sections of the trail. Be mindful that that is two-way traffic going up and down that trail for spectating. And you can pull that up on your mobile device or computer or whatever you want to. All in a race flyer.
All right. Thank you very much, Ben. I'm going to grab the screen back
I gave it up.
from you. All right. Excellent. And let's talk a little bit for the next several minutes about Saturday. And I'll start by describing the weather. I've been keeping an eye on that with the staff most of the week. I will make the weather call tomorrow like we always do on Thursday. I host a session about 11 in the morning with the staff, meteorologist, land manager, and assess the weather conditions. Right now, we've got some rain on Friday night going into Saturday morning, and that time and when that rain stops has shifted a little bit over the past couple of days, but looks about 1/4 of an inch overnight Friday, and then some high winds through Saturday, up to 20 miles per hour sustained, which has me concerned. So based on what I know right now, we're a go for Dark Mountain. Everyone will get that positive confirmation tomorrow, no later than noon. Recommend everyone sign up for the weather alerts on the website, and you can find the link in the flyer because that's how I'll communicate that to everybody. In addition to throughout the weekend, if we need to adjust anything because of weather, we will announce that through our text alert system initially. But what that means is for Saturday, we've modified the schedule. We've done two things. We have canceled the grit rides. So grit pre-ride and grit re-ride are canceled. We thought it was a much better idea to pair those athletes with the coaches they know and the coaches that know them best to deal with potentially slick trails at Dark Mountain. A decent amount of red clay and a decent amount of roots out there. Trails are probably going to be slick on Saturday. And then the second thing we've done is we've modified the course inspection to essentially pre-ride and re-ride only. So all course inspection will be red or yellow flag and coach led, because I'm going to need a lot of guidance out there on this fairly new trail system for folks with some technical features, as well as keeping an eye out for any potential wind impacts we've got throughout the day. We may have to modify the schedule again on Saturday, but I made those decisions to adjust right off the bat so everyone knows what to prepare for on Saturday. And so I'll turn it over next to Sean. We'll talk about course conditions and course inspection and how those will run. And then we'll turn over to Shell to talk about the grit and adventure activities, which are still scheduled for Saturday. So Sean, if you want to take it from here, over to you.
All right. If you'll scroll for me, because I don't have a laptop.
Yeah, do you want course inspection up first?
Yeah, go ahead and bring up course inspection. So it's pretty simple. This is going to be just like a team ride. You're going to need to really follow kind of knowing what you know about your team. So taking those beginner riders, the ones that have maybe less than 1 season of experience, so this is their first season racing, or those beginner riders that you feel like they definitely need more work, take them out under the red flag, leave all your varsity, all your JV2s, all your kids with experience, leave them at your tent. You're going to have to wait. That's the big thing. The team in front of you has stopped. You just got to wait for them to clear through, and then you've got to go afterwards. There's plenty of time. You can see that it's 2 hours for a red flag. And honestly, it'll probably take you 2 hours to do a lap. This is really the pace that you should be anticipating and the way that you should be anticipating riding this lap under the red flag conditions. Then after that, the yellow flag, those kids that you took out at the red flag, probably want to leave them back in the tent. They've had a good look at everything, then take the rest of your team out. And this is going to be that kind of continuous slow ride. So they don't need to stop and look at things. They just need to get their tires on it to see how it reacts and what they're going to be doing at a slow speed. That's really how we've got to look at course inspection time this race, given the time crunch. Are there any questions or concerns on that?
And did you want to cover the coaching tips, Sean, what to expect about Dark Mountain in particular?
Yeah, so I mean, the big thing with Dark Mountain is climbing and descending. This is going to be the most climbing that we have on any of our courses, and it's going to be the longest, most consistent climbs. So definitely getting student athletes ready for just that effort, but also getting them to understand how to do a proper climbing dismount and remount, and also coaching them through the idea that maybe where they have to get off on the climb is not the best place to try and get started on the climb. So if they dismount, it might be in their best interest to run forward a little bit to where they get to something that's a little bit less steep, and then they can do their remount and take back off. And then the descents are, again, long and consistent. And I see lots of student athletes that are descending in their saddle. I have a couple on my team as well. You just really got to hammer home that they need to be standing up in that ready position so that they don't get bucked or lose control on these descents, because they're longer and faster, and they're definitely going to need to be in that ready position and able to feel comfortable standing on both feet, equally weighted, and leaning that bike side to side to get it to change direction. And then you might want to go over the descending dismount as well. So if they do happen to just need to stop because there's another student athlete coming up behind them and they need to stop to get out of the way, if that student feels like that's what they need to do, getting them used to being able to dismount properly on descent so that they don't end up crashing in front of that student athlete trying to get off their bike and get out of their way. That would be great. But other than that, that's pretty much the things that you need to really be mindful of for this race that's different from the others.
Okay, I appreciate that, Sean. Shell, why don't you walk us through what to expect on Saturday for programs?
So I'll start with grit because that'll be a little bit different since we aren't doing the grit pre-ride or re-ride. Usually open grit activities at 1:30, but this weekend we'll open all the grit activities at the grit tent at 12:30, just to make sure that those student athletes have some stuff to do and people to hang out with. So from 12:30 until 5:30, all the activities at the grit tent will be open to all female student athletes. At 2:30, we'll have a health, wellness, and nutrition chat at the grit tent that any female student athletes are welcome to come and be part of. At 4 o'clock, we will have a mechanical clinic, which will be a bike wash clinic. So if you get your bike muddy on the wet trail, you can come and wash it before the race. And at 4:30, we're gonna have a board game hour. We have all sorts of games to play. It's a good way to wind down the day if you're just hanging out. And then 5:30 we'll close activities. Then same thing with the adventure tent. We'll open the activities there at 12:30, and that will be open until 5:30 as well. We'll have a skills course that student athletes can do. We'll have stuff for them to build their own skills course so they can challenge themselves or a friend. Lots and lots of yard games there, some bike games to play. So lots to do. Can definitely use some help with volunteers for the adventure area. So if you are a coach who was signed up to help with the grit pre-ride or re-ride on Saturday, and you're still looking for a really fun way to come play bikes with some of our student athletes, would love to have you sign up for some of the open slots for the adventure area. So please take a look, see if any of those times would work for you. We'd love to have your help.
All right, fantastic, Shell. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised we need some volunteers for the adventure. I mean, the title is Stoke Captain. I mean, sign me right up. I'm ready to go. And do I have this correctly? If I'm looking at the chat window, Joel Goldberg, are you a student athlete or is that your parents' account? Because I think I owe you a t-shirt. If you can just drop that in the chat window with your size for the t-shirt. I think you're our first student athlete question we saw in the chat window. All right, so that generally covers Saturday. Let's talk a little bit about Sunday before we open it up to questions and answers here. Let's see if there we go. Okay, so I do want to just emphasize call-up process, same as Browns Creek. If you go to the website and click on the call-up list, you will be able to see every student athlete that's registered for this race in the order that they will be called up individually into the start chute by category and field. So that information is out there. Coaches, you should know the order. Yours truly will be in the staging area there at Dark Mountain to call them into the chute. It worked really well. I think was efficient for us at Browns Creek, and we'll sustain that here again for Dark Mountain. For the wave schedule, I do want to point this out to everyone. I'd ask you all to pay attention to this because the start times are different than Browns Creek. And why that is because now that we have a lot more data on our riders, we're shortening the gaps between the multiple field categories and even between categories in all of our waves. And so the staging time and hence the race start time for most of our categories and fields once we start are different than Browns Creek. And again, you can find that all in the race flyer as I scroll through that here. You can reference that. If we have to make any changes to that, we will do that on the flyer and we will announce that at the race Sunday morning at the coaches meeting if we have to do anything with the Sunday schedule for sure. Let me talk about one thing I did bring up at the last town hall for those that weren't there. We did have some issues around our start chute at Browns Creek and two main issues. One, we had a dog walk under the tape in front of some of our riders that caused a pileup. So I'd like everyone to reference the new league pet policy that's linked on the website and in the race flyer. If you are bringing a dog to our venues, must stay on a non-retractable leash, not longer than 6 feet, and keep that dog away from the race course, please. We just can't have that happen again. And then just broadly, please don't crowd the tape around the start chute. We had a couple folks leaning in. You know, those riders, when they start, they are going to try and use every available bit of space inside that start chute to get an advantage. And so stay back from the tape if you would, please, and make it a safe environment for our riders. So any questions about the Sunday schedule, please throw in the chat or as we break into Q&A, we'll be happy to address them there. Todd, as we get to the end of the day on Sunday, what to expect before we get to podiums?
Hey, good evening, everybody. Yeah, this is the one of the craziest and saddest parts of the day. We're cleaning up, tearing down the course. Basically, we can't start any of it until that last racer goes off. Then we can start tearing down the start chute. And as we progress, as they finish up, we will finish tearing down the rest of the course. Problem here, or not problem, but one of the issues here is you will have to cross the start chute to get to the pit zone. So basically, once we get cleaned up the course and the entire field is tore down, then we can start tearing down pit zone. as appropriate. You can't be crowding the start shoot. We don't want everybody backing up and having traffic jams and jamming up in that small parking lot. So it's going to be controlled chaos. Once we're done with that, we can get the podiums off, and then everybody can finish up tearing down your pit zones and make your way home. So again, we ask for your patience. It's the venue is not huge like Browns Creek, so just be patient and be flexible and be courteous to your fellow person out there.
All right. Thank you very much, Todd. That brings us to the end of Sunday and podiums and awesome. And right about the 30-minute mark for our town hall presentation. So let's, Shell, if you could get us caught up on any questions unanswered in the chat, and then we'll open the floor, so to speak.
Sure. Sydney asked, where will we park trailers on industrial? I don't see adequate spaces.
This is Ben Harbor. There are a few spots that are open and a little bit larger on down Industrial Boulevard. Basically what we've seen in the past is big, large tractor trailers will just take up 7 or 8 parking spaces for vehicles. So you can certainly park through there if you need to.
And Rose asked, can the parking lot status be posted on Facebook so folks know to expect to be routed to the alternate lot?
With all the craziness of the day, we can try to do our best. We've got volunteers that are on radios communicating back and forth, so it may be a delay. We can certainly post at the top of the dam at that circle area that he had on the screen. Hey, lots are full, but we'll still have our parking attendants doing that same message as well.
We had another question. Will the walking route be well marked?
We will not have signage posted on the trail. It is the typical greeny meeny uphill climb. The entire Dark Mountain Trail system will be closed for our event. But we ask that still remain a walking up and a walking back, just because it's a spectator going an uphill to visit and see students on their races.
And Nikki asked, will there be potable water at the bottom that we can fill large water containers with?
There is a spigot down there where you're going to do your grit bike wash. We need to find out when they'll turn on that spigot. I think they've been watching the weather this week and did not want to turn it on any earlier than the weekend.
And we had an idea. Has anyone at the league considered a GoPro style video as an extra tool for athletes? Sean, Ben, or someone from the Wilco area could narrate and ride at a slower pace to give tips. Just a suggestion.
I can certainly try to do that. I'm not sure if we can get that up before the weekend. I think it would be a funny video to have myself ride and Sean more narrate my lovely riding abilities.
And that's all I saw in the chat. So if any more questions, want to raise your hand or just.
Yeah, I saw one from Jason Malwini about interested in doing infield setup.
Yeah, Diane
And-
answered him.
Okay, good. Yep.
Okay, well, thanks for getting us caught up, Shell. Let's go to open mic night here at the town hall. If you want to raise your hand, we'll call on you to ask your question, or chat remains open.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead, Todd.
Todd here. Hey, real quick, I just want to reinforce something Ben had said about the walking trail up for the spectators. Just again, no bikes. Bikes are not going to be allowed on that. The course is closed for riding, and if it is single track trail, so if somebody's zipping down on their bike and there are people walking up it, that's not a good equation. So yeah, no bikes on that trail. That it will be a walking trail because the course is closed.
Brian, this is Sean.
Go ahead, Sean.
So one thing that I want to talk about with pre-ride and just any time that coaches are on course with student athletes is there may be trail work going on, and that they need to be mindful of that and give whoever course setters or whoever is on trail doing work, give them as much courtesy and wide berth as they can, and understand that they've got to do what they've got to do in order for things to be able to be raced on. So be respectful and be mindful.
Appreciate that, Sean. As much as we like to get things set in advance, some of that foul weather is going to delay us a little bit. So it's an important point. Bill Stevens and the course setting crew will probably be out there most of the day Saturday, making sure we've got a good race course for the next day. And I think I've got Chris Novak with a hand up. Chris, if you want to throw your question up.
Yeah, just a quick question about volunteering. I already signed up to be a court marshal, course marshal.
Let's hope not, Chris. Let's hope it doesn't go that bad.
But I I'm there with my son. This is his first race and my first race. But if I feel like I could volunteer for other stuff while I'm there, could I just reach out to you, Diane, or somebody, and just say, hey, I'm available and help out wherever? Is that cool and encouraged?
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks for your question, by the way. Just if you want to stop by the table and see me under the tent on Saturday, that will be great. And we'll just figure out what you could do. Now, if you want to talk about that a little bit more, just shoot me an email, Diane, at northcarolinamtb.org, and we can chit chat about that when we're done with this meeting via email, if that works for you.
Cool. Yeah, I'm asking because I don't know what to anticipate for myself yet, and I don't want to overextend and promise something that I can't do. But if I can while I'm there, then I'm more than happy to help where I can. So that's why I just wanted to check in.
Okay, thanks. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we'll make it work. We'll make it work for you.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate the question. And for Rebecca Irwin in the chat window, sometimes that can be cut and paste. Are you referring to the call up list? Is that where you're seeing a team name discrepancy? Okay, yeah, I'll take a look at it. If you want to give me the name of the SA in particular, we'll see what's going on there. I suspect the ranking order is just fine. I won't get into a diatribe about the pit zone management system we use and how easy that is to pull the information out of. But I guess it's probably just a cut and paste thing, but I'll take a look at it. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, Brian, this is Sean from South Wake. I think what we saw on the call-up sheet is one of our riders was listed as independent first and then Southern Wake. And then we saw that there was several other riders that said independent and then their team name. So we're just curious what the independent meant. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to take a look at it. I'm not quite sure, Sean. It based on the athlete. I'll take a look at the names and see what's going on there.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah, sure. With our third town hall in, do we have most everything covered? Is that what I'm hearing, or do we have any other questions? And Joel Goldberg, men's medium t-shirt. Gotcha, man. Thanks for asking the question. For sure.
Hey, this is Nona Workman. I do have a last minute question. I just raised my hand. You probably haven't seen it yet.
I did not see the raised hand, but go ahead.
Sure, no worries.
We have 20 minutes in our town hall.
Sure. So
Yeah.
I'm looking in the event flyer, but I was zooming through it. But what I see on my screen, it looks like the start chute goes up, like kind of from the reservoir side. That there's like a good long time across the field before hitting that climb that goes up the mountain. Is that correct, or am I seeing that right?
That is correct. I could let Todd and Ben talk a little bit more in detail about it, but NICA likes us to give a nice long start chute before they enter the single track. So with the space we have a dark mountain, we've got to loop it a little bit and give them a little bit of distance before they enter that single track. But Todd or Ben, any more about?
Yep. So I'll take this one as a local. So yes, on that race file that you have on the screen, we'll be staging right there about where his mouse is at, to the right there. That'll be where we do all the call-ups for the race for students on that little hillside. They'll walk across the small ditch, water ravine right there, and then line up in our chute. That's the green box there. Then the students, when we say go, they'll take off down towards the water's edge. We're staying about 50, 60 feet off the water, so no water hazards during this race. And then we'll go across the field as far as we can go, do a nice, smooth, gentle curve all the way around, and then go up a 45 against that hill and start traveling down the gravel path walkway, or the walking path there at Dark Mountain, and then shoot into the woods just past the wooden ballards, as I was told by the Corps of Engineers today. Any wooden structure stuck in the ground is called a ballard. I learned something new this morning. And then we'll go into the single track as we normally would as we ride that course. Per Garmin, that looks to be just right at a quarter mile of start, mixture of grass and hard pack loose, I guess crush and run, or track course if you're used to that. And then we start the lovely, notorious Dark Mountain hill climb.
Thank you. And
Yes.
that sounds perfect. And also remind me, it's been a while since I've been out there. Is that hill climb more of like kind of a rough double track, or is it single track, or?
It is all single track. There
Okay,
are
gotcha.
very minimal passing areas unless you're a seasoned rider with
Okay.
good balance and skills. So students will want to get into the single file before they hit the woods. Where he has his mouse pointed at the trail, there is another pretty much 180 U-turn. And as soon as you make that turn, you're faced with some off-camber rocks. That's why Sean Moore did a great job of describing that rocky hill climb and getting that started. Most of our coaching staff, our league staff, course setters know that that's going to be a pinch point of students jumping off and walking their bikes. So certainly make that a point on Saturday when you take your teams out to look at that, talk about that, give other teams space to look at that. That's the biggest concern I personally have when we do our pre-ride and course inspections, is if we pile up 10 teams together and start rolling off within seconds, we're not doing ourselves justice for that course inspection.
Ben, while you're on the line, what did you clock the course at the other day, distance wise?
Roughly 3.4, 3.5 miles with a Garmin on a wheel sensor.
Thank you. And I saw that Jim Otto had answered the question about the independent riders. And so, Jim, thanks for confirming that. We do have some riders assigned to teams, but we don't score them as part of that team for various reasons. If anyone has a question about a particular student athlete, please feel free to reach out to me and I'll clarify that. And I think we had another question from someone about how the riders are ranked for the second race. Jim, do you want to take that, or do you want me to walk through the ranking process for this race number 2? Okay, I'll walk through the ranking process for our second race. The question, or the answer to the question, is depends on who you are. If you raced at Browns Creek, we have points on you, and you are ranked by your points in that category, and that essentially sets your ranking at the top of that category or field. If we didn't have any data on you, you are assigned randomly behind those riders with points. Based on the random team order list, and that is on the website. You can see how we generated that, and then we received coach input for ranking their own riders, one over the other. So that's essentially, it depends on who you are for the second race. If you had points coming out of Browns Creek, we use the points, and then right behind that, random order to establish the call-up list. And hope that answered the question, but happy to give you a follow-up on that.
Brian, this is Sean. I got a question via email that I feel like warrants being shared. And it's just confirming that bringing a team trailer to Dark Mountain this weekend is okay. They seem to recall that they've been asked not to bring it to Quaker and Dark Mountain in the past. So they are trying to see if it's okay to bring team trailers to Dark Mountain.
You can certainly bring them and unload them in the unloading zone at the bottom, but they will need to be parked down at the overflow shuttle parking at the YMCA.
All right. And then there's another question that just came through. There's a couple of questions that came through in the chat. Where are you placed if you raced last year but haven't raced this year? If you haven't raced this year, then you are in the random draw. So after the first race, last year's results are no longer valid for startup. And so after that, it just goes to that random if you didn't do the first race. And then there's a suggestion, why don't we have a meter or like a golf starter at the Woods Trail entrance to help with the bottleneck? I'm assuming you're talking about during the course inspection time, having someone that could kind of tell whether or not another team could get started. The problem is that bottleneck is kind of doesn't have line of sight with anybody that would make any sense for metering. So it's a bit blind.
And then Ben in the chat, warm-up locations, what might be able to be used for warm-up?
Yeah, so warm up, obviously you can do the hill climb up and down from the lower lot to the bottom lot, or upper lot, excuse me. The dam going straight across as you're going over to the visitor center is a good line of sight. Just obviously there's going to be vehicular traffic going back and cross through there. So be very, very careful with that. OVT trails, if your student athlete wants to go get in 2 or 3 miles, that's just right across the dam right there at the visitor center in that section where the hand's at. That's some single track trail that you can ride at your own risk and at your own time to be able to do some warm-ups.
Thank you, Ben. And then another question in your lane about if the shuttle is not running and how do you park? My answer would be self-shuttle in some sense with your team, but do you have any other thoughts on that?
So all we can have for at this time is the self-team shuttle. And we definitely had some email conversations and great feedback once we posted that shuttle service yesterday, I think, to the league race flyer, or we posted somewhere, I can't remember, or sent it out. We're certainly taking those things into consideration and watching this weekend and trying to learn where we can incorporate those suggestions. All great feedback. I wish we could answer and implement every one of them this weekend. But I don't think we'll get them all implemented yet. But we're certainly looking for those opportunities to do it. I would ask that those that are providing all the great suggestions, please see us this weekend and sign up for volunteer slots to help us out as well, because it takes an army to pull this off. And we have so many eyes, and we would love your eyes to see other suggestions and solutions too. But thank y'all.
Certainly the case, and part of the reason I thank the staff for putting these things together. Ben, I think this was our 3rd shuttle service solution over the past several months. We just had a few drop out on us, and so at this point they were available, and that's who we have to go with to pull this off. But just like Ben said, we're always looking for ways to improve, so please keep the ideas coming for sure. Okay, happy to keep the mics open, so to speak, for another 10 minutes to the top of the hour. If you have other questions, please raise a hand or get them into the chat here. That's what we're here for, to get them all answered before the weekend.
I will bring up one thing I did see in an email before our meeting started. one of our food trucks that's servicing our event this weekend is coming all the way from Salisbury. It's the barbecue truck that we had at Salisbury last year. They have been watching the weather as well. A little concerned with some potential rain over Friday night, Saturday. And they may be asking to only come on Sunday. So if you're planning to utilize the food services on Saturday, please check out the race flyer and understand that this little piggy barbecue from Salisbury might not be there Saturday. I'm going to do my best to beg and plead and ask them to come on up, because I think we can get them in safely and get them out safely.
Yeah, that's a shame. One, it's food. Two, it's Little Piggies, which are pretty good.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dixie Donuts lunch. I don't know if I could survive that, Ben, but thanks for a heads up on that. Carolyn, did you have a question? I thought I saw your hand up real briefly there. What you got for us? Carolyn Prey? No question?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Hi.
okay.
I'm trying to absorb all of this. So the shuttle situation, I totally understand what's going on and, you know, that you have a gap there for various reasons. So here is my concern. If we're doing a team shuttle, is there a way, if somebody's got to go get somebody, that we won't lose our parking space so we can come back and park right where we were if we
Yes.
have to go get team members?
Yes, once we close the or define that the on-site Dark Mountain is closed in full, those parking attendants will stand their shift until their volunteer shift ends, and they will be asked that if any vehicle leaves, that same vehicle can come back in and park where they were. We do not want to have one leave and then somebody else come in and pull that spot. We'll do our best. We'll work with our volunteers to communicate that as they rotate shifts. But please be patient with us as we learn this new shuttle process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question, Carolyn.
Oh, sorry, I have one more quick question. I had a parent ask me, I know you guys said for the race that was canceled, they could apply the $25 to a future race. What if they have already entered into all of the races? What do they do then? What happens then?
Good question. Let's see what the rest of the season does with us, Carolyn, and we'll kind of clean up at the end of the season.
Okay, that's what I'll tell them. Thank you.
Thanks. Yep, appreciate it. And a question from Scott. What you got?
Hey guys, Scott from Chatham County. I think you kind of alluded to this with the category placements and all, Brian, but with specific to 7th and 8th grade boys groups, they have multiple fields still. Are your finish times and all that, are those first spots going to go to the first category, first field, and then the slower category in the second, or are they still going to be mixed in?
So for the entire category, Scott, I think the best way I can answer this question. So we'll just talk 8th grade boys. For that entire category, riders are in fact ranked 1 through however many are in that entire category, from fastest to slowest, if I could describe it that way. Then we cut that category in half and create the 2 fields. So yes, field 1 generally faster than field 2. Is that fair enough?
Excellent. Yep. Excellent. That's what I was assuming. Just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think we do have some field 2s. The top of that field do have some points from that last race. But like I said, just overall 1 to however many in that category ranked by speed, essentially.
Okay. Perfect.
And yeah, just in case people were wondering, our magic number for splitting a category into 2 fields was about 50. We were close, not quite up to 50 in a couple of the boys categories in middle school, but because of some of those trail conditions, because of the bottlenecking early, we decided to keep the split fields for those bigger categories, give everyone just a little bit more space to work out some of the bottlenecks. But great question, Scott. Thanks for asking. Okay, and got about 5 more minutes. We've had some questions pop up here in the last few, so happy to keep it open again, and we'll just close out at 9 o'clock. Or would anyone like to see anything else in the flyer? Just other items of interest. Just while we're waiting on maybe a last question or two, we'll have merchandise back at this venue. TC Screen Printing is our new merchandise vendor for the season. They do have an online store. You can find the link to that in the flyer and even on our website. Appreciate all the team support on the Trek giveaway. We launched that about 2 weeks ago. Really good revenue generator for the league. Teams get up to 50% of the contributions. Any contributor can select the team they want to contribute to. I think we're almost up to $4,500 so far, and that will run through our last race. So actually the day after 22 May. A really good way to generate some revenue for the league. And then just as a preview, as we close this out, like I said, tomorrow I will release the single track times with links to the flyer, links to this town hall, links to the podcast from this week, some other general race information. And then after the race, Tuesday or Wednesday next week, I'll release a race report. We'll have all the results, links to photos. But one thing, economic impact survey. Would like you to spend some time telling us how much money you spent in Wilkesboro. Really helpful for us to go to new communities as we're trying to establish new venues and say how much of an impact we have in their community. Industry 9's given us a nice wheel set for the top contributor to all the economic impact surveys. So think about that as you're closing out the weekend this weekend. And if you got issues filling out the survey based on that chat, let me know. I can contact NICA and get those things worked out. We did have some issues on first launch, but if you continue to have those, let me know. I'll get those worked out for sure. Anything else in our last few minutes?
Richard, can you explain your bring a pylon for your team shuttle spot?
I was trying to get off mute here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, so I'm off mute. Great. No, just thinking about the logistics of a team shuttle car, if you will, kind of running back and forth between that 1 and 4 o'clock spot. I mean, a couple of cones or something just to tag the spot might help us find our spot again when we come back in. I assume the volunteers are going to have some way to know that that's a team vehicle going out and back, right? When we leave and come back.
Right now, we don't have any way to identify it other than just taking a picture of the vehicle.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, Richard, is throw a cone down in your spot as you leave.
Right. Right. Or yeah, like a towel at the beach. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm coming up on 9 o'clock. Thank you everyone for attending. Again, looking forward to seeing everyone out there at in Wilkesboro at Dark Mountain this weekend. Thanks for all the questions. Just like Ben said, keep them coming to make us better. And let's just focus on keeping everyone safe this weekend, having a really good time. So thanks again, everyone, for joining.